Mr. President, thank you for the time.
أنا اللي بشكرك والحقيقة
I'm the one thanking you, and indeed this is a great opportunity to speak through your channel to the American people.
The last time we spoke was in Cairo in March of 2015. Since then, a lot has changed. And you had a meeting with President Trump in the Oval Office just the other day. Your assessment of this president, this administration, and your relationship now?
أنا كان تقديري دايما
My assessment from I first saw the campaign of His Excellency President Trump, and I listened to his speech about the necessity of facing and countering terrorism all over the world, that he is a great personality, a unique individual, and that he will find great success. I fully trust the capabilities of President Trump, and I have full conviction that he can do things and exert efforts that very few people can do, and he can succeed in so many fields that others cannot. I trust him wholeheartedly, and again I congratulate you for having him.
I know you were one of the first foreign leaders to call and congratulate him, if not the first. What is the relationship between you two?
أنا تابعت كل تصريحاته.
I followed all his announcements through his campaign. He has a very unique personality and administration, and now I'm speaking with full confidence of unprecedented success for him. He is seeking the interest of the United States and the American people in a very clear manner and a very direct manner, and a very strong manner as well, and with different concepts and ideas. There is true will, a very strong will, to counter terrorism and extremism in the world. And that is a very strong commitment from His Excellency the President. And in addition, I am very supportive with full force in facing this terrorism.
You know that his platform is to cut back in a number of different areas. One of them is foreign aid. Egypt receives quite a lot of money from the U.S. currently. In fact, $1.5 billion in aid a year. Did he talk about aid to Egypt from the U.S.?
أنا كل اللي ممكن أقوله في
All I can say in this regard is that His Excellency the President promised to support Egypt with very strong support, and I trust his promise.
You are fighting ISIS, a version of ISIS, in the Sinai. How is that fight going?
لو قارنا
If we compare the effort exerted during the past 3 years, or exactly 40 months, in which we started to confront the so-called in Sinai in the beginning, and now there is great progress and great success. But I always say that terrorism takes a long time to get rid of it completely. Confronting and countering terrorism among the civilians is a very difficult thing.
When we last talked, you expressed concerns about some of the things that the Obama administration was choosing to do or not do. Now the Trump administration is obviously establishing a different relationship. Can you talk about the differences and what that means to Egypt?
ده صحيح.
That is true. That is true. There is a true understanding to the realities in the region, and there is seriousness and responsible actions in facing extremism and terrorism in the region. And that's a wonderful thing indeed. There is nothing better than to counter evil.
So it's very different.
Yes.
Get the English yes for that.
Yes.
Okay. Still, there are concerns from human rights groups here in the U.S. about Egypt's record in human rights, that there are tens of thousands of political prisoners. The Human Rights Watch says that it's not surprising that President Trump wants to support it, but Congress has to step in and continue using its authorities to limit U.S. support, given how serious the scale of repression and abuse is under President El-Sisi. How do you respond to the concerns about human rights and political prisoners in your country?
أنا عايز أقول إن
I would like to say
أنا التقيت بعض
that I met with some Congress members, and a great part of my date was a discussion including the issue that you just raised. And I would like to affirm that we respect our citizens and we care for them and fear for them. And I would like to say, just as much as you like your citizens, we do. We also have to protect 93 millions in a region that is very unstable, and ideas and elements that are extremist living in our society. And so as we move in that direction, we should not harm our citizens, but also we have to maintain a balance between the actions to achieve stability, security, and to preserve the state, and on the other hand, the human rights.
There are Americans involved here. One, Aya Hijazi, a humanitarian worker arrested in May 2014 on what many viewed as trumped-up charges of trafficking and child abuse. Did her name come up in your talks? Is that going to get resolved?
احنا دايما بنتصرف
We always act within respect for the law in Egypt as well as the judiciary, and whenever there is a case and within the authorities afforded to the president and according to the law and the constitutions, we take action in it. However, the message that we always stress is that we respect all citizens, be it Egyptian citizens or Egyptian citizens with an American citizenship or any other citizenship. I would like to reassure who are interested in this case. And by the way, it is true that the case, the charges against her is using children in demonstrations. It is now being looked into in the courts, and as soon as there is a verdict, this would be decided. I know how your feelings in this regard, and I appreciate it.
Just to be clear, did you say that the case of Aya Hijazi was going to be wrapped up soon?
زي ما قلت كده القضية.
As I said, it's now being looked into through the courts, and as I said, I highly appreciate your interest in it, and I'm also interested in it. But as soon as the courts issue a verdict, we will have an opportunity based on my authorities as a president to act in a suitable way.
You understand that there are some Americans who are 100% behind Egypt's efforts against radical extremists, and there are some Americans who look skeptically at you as an autocrat, if you will, who operates with a heavy hand. How do you talk to those people in America about what you're doing in Egypt?
الاختلاف أمر طبيعي.
Difference of opinion is very normal, and there is no full agreement among the human race, and we are all human. There are those who see things positively and others who don't see it the same way. The person sitting across from you has approximately a year or a little over, a couple months more, and that's it. His term will be over. A dictator stays 30 or 40 years or even 10 years against the will of his people. That is not the case in Egypt. We don't have that anymore. No more. We have 4 years, and if the people accept, maybe 4 more, and there is no third chance. There is true change in Egypt, and the Egyptian people will not accept to have a president against their will. In Egypt, there is no chance for anything other than law, constitution, elections, specified length of term, and that's it.
How would you describe your relationship with your Gulf allies, specifically Saudi Arabia?
علاقة قوية.
It's a strong relationship, and they are not friends, they are brothers. Truly, in the area of the Gulf, and I always say and reiterate that the security of the Gulf region is part of Egypt's security and the Arab national security is all one and whole, and this is something that does not change.
One unifying aspect that seems to be a concern about the region and the actions of different players. Obviously Hezbollah, but Iran overall. If something happened that was devastating in the region, what would Egypt do?
منطقتنا العربية
We in our Arab region can, within our capabilities in Egypt and the entire Arab region, together, we can achieve the Arab national security. However, do not forget that the region is an unstable region and the reality as it stands is a difficult one.
One of your concerns has been Libya.
Yes.
And the unstable nature of that country. Do you think it's time to call for United Nations peacekeepers in Libya so that Egypt doesn't carry the load of security there? Or do you think that the U.S. should be doing more inside Libya?
خلينا أقول إن إحنا ما استغلناش.
Let me say that we have not used all the resources available, and I always say that we need to support national armies that exist in the countries facing such turmoils. Up until now, as we speak, and I asked that over 2 years ago to lift the embargo on arming that army, or at least look at certain aspects to provide them with the necessary equipment to perform their task. So far that has not happened. Let's move forward and assist the national army to take this task and its country and assist them in performing that mission. And if the Libyans need and accept to have peacekeeping forces, then we will not hesitate at all to assist our brothers in Libya. Stability in Libya and having no extremists or having the Libyan people captive to these armed extremist groups is something that we offer full support in, and that's Egypt's stance.
If the UN doesn't, or the U.S. doesn't step up inside Libya, do you think that Russia will?
إحنا عايزين.
We would like to move positively because this is our region, and the region does not have more room for instability. And the more vacuum we have, the more danger there is. And now there is a confrontation with ISIS in Syria and Iraq. Now those fighters who are running away from these countries, they're moving to Libya. What's going to happen with them? Are they going to settle in Libya? And from there they're going to start staging attacks on the neighboring countries, including Egypt and even Europe. And so we don't want to be late in our response.
I guess my question is about Russia's actions inside Syria, obviously. Could they be inside Libya? And what's your overall perception of Russia in the region? I know you've had some interaction with Russia and Vladimir Putin.
Regarding Russia, I always said when there is a vacuum and when there is a treatment of the extremes, and I always insist on calling it extremist groups, and I always say clearly who brought the elements and extremist groups from all over the world and made them available in Syria. Who did that? Did the Syrian regime bring him there? We have to speak in clear terms and honest, and we have to speak with one face as we confront terrorism.
And you think Russia's doing that?
In all cases, Russia has interests in Syria and the region, and I think they are defending their interests.
Do you think that the vacuum left by the Obama administration enabled Russia to take a greater foothold in your region?
In fact, many things over the last 4 years occurred and caused many problems. That's a fact. The region is paying a very heavy price for that, not just Syria. The entire region is paying that price.
And you hope to turn that around? With the U.S. or without the U.S.?
It can't happen without them.
Last thing. What keeps you up at night?
The Egyptian person.
المواطن المصري
the Egyptian, simple Egyptian citizen.
سكان عدد كبير
We have a large number in our population. Our economic conditions are always difficult, and we need to work hard and do a lot of effort to achieve a reasonable standard of living, not a luxurious standard, just an average life, nothing more. And that's something that's very important for you here in the United States to look at in Egypt. There are 93 million citizens that I want to protect.
Mr. President, we appreciate your time, and on behalf of Fox News, thanks for sitting down with me again. With that